So Gary, the theme of this season is Charge the Storm.
Yeah.
And for the last few months, we've got T-shirts made with a buffalo on them, says Charge the Storm.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where that came from.
Well, actually, someone sent me a T-shirt and with a buffalo. And it was just a buffalo and a lightning bolt.
Okay.
And I thought, well, that's cool. So I went and Googled it, and I discovered it's a thing, Jay. That it looks like there's a gazillion different T-shirts with buffaloes and lightning bolts and storms and all that. So then I Googled the story, and it turns out that buffaloes are a unique animal. And that is, they've learned that for them, the best way to approach coming disaster is to lean into it and run through it, not run away from it.
Because that way they just get through the other side faster.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And for me, I also know that I'm doing something proactive about it. I can't control the storm.
Yeah.
Right. And that's become our metaphor. Like everybody who's listening to this, we know that there's a recession on the horizon.
Yeah.
Already in it for some of us.
That's right.
So the attitude of, be the buffalo, right? Charge the storm. Like it gives us a proactive stance to take. Yes. In tough times.
Well, it's a great theme, right? I think the buffalo learned that you can't outrun it.
Right.
And if you hunker down, then you become defenseless. So it seems, and I don't know why they're the only animal in the kingdom that figured out that the fastest way to get through a storm is not to try to outrun it or hunker down, but the fastest way is to turn and run through it. I love that.
I don't know. I love it. I think I look at a lot of the entrepreneurs and even some of the leaders that we get to work with and across different industries. I think a lot of them are putting on their bear suit right now.
Yeah, that's right.
They want to go into a cave and hibernate and just wake up on the other side.
Yeah, it's natural though. Isn't it? I think it's natural.
Yeah.
Let's wait it out.
It's what we wish for, but that's not what a CEO gets to do, is it?
No, your best thinking would not be to do that. That's right.
All right. So, let's talk a little bit about like the mindset we need to adopt, Gary. I mean, we documented it the last time we did a masterminds. I think you've been a leader leading a company through 5 different recessions?
Yeah, that's right. Going back to 79, which was just horrendous.
Oh.
But it's fascinating because I started my career in just a horrific recession, Jay. And so my whole mindset, the way that I've looked at the world since I was 21 years old, is through the lens of the storm. I thought the storm was normal.
Right? And that's when you showed up. You didn't know better.
Yeah, it was my briar patch. I got thrown into a storm such that I learned how to survive and thrive in that environment. I watched a lot of people sit on the sideline and say, well, we're just going to wait it out. I don't think they made it. I never saw those people again, to be honest with you. The ones that I saw again and again were those put their head down and charged into the storm and took action and said, well, I'm going to make the most that I can during this situation. I'm not going to just sit around. Because a lot of people thought, and again, we're in the real estate business, a lot of people thought that I'll just wait it out. Why would someone want to do business at these rates, at these prices? Why would anyone want to transact real estate in this environment? I looked up. I rented an apartment, right? I didn't know any different. My thinking was, well, maybe you just want to. Yeah. Or maybe you have a better use of your money, or blah, 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 right? There will be people that will have a reason that economics don't interfere with. Mm-hmm. They're going to go ahead and do it anyway. And so I just went out and found those people, and I actually hit all my goals in my first year, even though interest rates went to over 18%.
Well, you weren't burdened with like a status quo thinking around what it took to make the industry work.
That's right.
You just stepped into it. And so all of the baggage they were carrying forward about what made for a good market or a bad market, that wasn't something you were thinking about. You were just asking, well, how would this market work?
Not at all. That's exactly right. Well, I have to succeed. Someone's going to transact, right? Mm-hmm. The thing about a recession, the thing about a shift is that it's typically an economy of less, meaning that there are less buyers and or sellers in the marketplace at that time. That's what causes it, right?
Right.
A boom would be there's lots of buyers, there's lots of sellers, there's a lot of activity. A recession or a shift,
demand recedes. I mean, I think that's actually where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
The buying demand is receding.
That's right.
Over a long enough time, there's less sellers because they got no one to sell to.
So bam, there's less. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do? There's less. What are you going to do? And the way I've always thought about it is when there's less, you have to do more. So it's the market of less is more, causes more. And more means that you're going to have to change we'll talk about this in later episodes, but you're going to have to literally go change the way you generate clients to make sure that when your math changes that you have enough people to do business.
That's right.
So
got it. So the Buffalo mindset, this idea, we were kicking around in this, and we were kind of contrasting an attitude. You've been through 5 of these. We were kind of calling it an evergreen kind of mindset around how to adapt to the changing marketplaces.
Well, you have 2 choices. I mean, I believe that you have 2 mindsets.
Okay.
And what you and I call, one is the evergreen mindset, and the other one we would call situational or immediate mindset. And most people forget the evergreen one. They always, and if you go Google it and you say recession mindset or shift mindset or whatever, no one's going to talk about the evergreen one. But you and I believe that it's the most important one because it's what sets you up.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, the change is inevitable.
Yes.
Okay. They call it an economic cycle for a reason. And that is what goes up, goes down, what goes down, goes up. They actually cause each other. Once you, right? It does. When things get too high, bam, it causes it to go down. And when it's too low, it causes it to go up. Once
the key word there is too. That's why they call it a market correction, right? It's too high.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable. At some point it corrects. And when it corrects, it tends to be a bit of a whiplash.
Yeah, that's right.
All that optimism that was driving it up is now equally met with 3 times the pessimism as it goes down.
Right. So they're going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. I don't know on my deathbed, will it be up or down? Right. I have no idea. I know that when I got in, it went down. Right? So for me, my mindset is it's always going to be going up or going down. And if I'm up, at some point I'm going to be down. And if I'm down, at some point I'm going to be up. They cause each other, meaning that you won't stay down forever.
Yeah.
You won't stay up forever. Okay, if you know that, then the first mindset that I believe you want to adopt, particularly if you're leading your own life or you're leading other people, is the evergreen mindset.
You got it. So it's kind of like in summertime when things are good, if we go back to the seasonality, you're storing nuts for winter because you know winter's coming. You don't know when, but you're just going to make that a habit versus walking around with maybe an immediate or seasonal mindset that times are good. I'm just going to eat all the nuts I can right now.
Yeah, that's right. The evergreen mindset is playing the long game, right?
Yeah.
It's understanding that times will be good, times will be bad. What can I do consistently through all of that to set myself up for the best opportunity to be successful? If things are booming, I'm set up to boom. If things are falling, I'm still set up to have the best possible economic outcomes that I can have.
It's funny is I've seen you, like we've given industry speeches every year for years now where we talk about what happened last year, what do we kind of expect for next year. And when times are really good, like you always say, hey folks, make hay while the sun shines, but this other thing is coming. And like you get darts thrown at you. It's like, why are you talking about a recession when we just had the best year ever?
Oh yeah.
And that's because, like you said, you started your business career in a recession. And you just have never allowed yourself to forget that one is always over the horizon somewhere.
Sure. Well, and actually they come within, they have in the past come within a certain rhythm, which is why I get made fun of in my own industry and in my own company, because I'm always 2 years, 3 years early. Because when you've been in a boom long enough, Jay, you're crossing a line. Right. 5 years of a boom, you should begin to look around you because you're now most likely closer to a recession than you are in maintaining that boom.
Makes total sense to me.
So it makes me wrong till I'm right, but directionally I'm always correct.
Well, what it makes you then, and like, here's the benefit of that evergreen mindset. I know that there are some entrepreneurs that when the market turns south, right, things get bad, they don't say, oh no, they say finally.
Yes.
Because they understand there's opportunity there. If you've had an evergreen mindset, that is when, like we did the study in 2009, companies that gave up market share rarely get it back.
Yeah.
That is like the market, maybe not the profit opportunity,
Yeah,
but there is massive opportunity to gain market share in these markets if you've come into it with the right attitude, or we can talk about it, if you didn't, how you quickly get to where you should be so that you can at least weather the storm and take as much advantage of it as possible.
Yeah, so when we talk about playing the long game, we're talking about first off personally and then professionally. So on a personal level, not to get into the weeds on that, I would say that has to do with your areas of discipline. So we're talking about your health, your spirituality, your relationships, those things, right? Your financial condition,
right?
So that you yourself are not in crisis, or you've put yourself in the best position that when crisis comes, that your body is fortified, your financial bank account is solid, your relationships are as good as they possibly can be, and you've put money into the relationship bank that in a recession, if you need to withdraw some time because you have to put more time elsewhere, that you're okay.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's a sidetrack at all. I actually want to go deeper in it. Like we define, like you look at wealth in the dictionary and it's an abundance of something, right?
Yeah.
And we almost always talk about wealth, about finances.
Yeah.
Right? If you come into this and you have a abundance in wealth and finances, then you've got reserves that could help you through this.
There you go.
But like, do you have a wealth in relationships? Do you have a wealth in your time? Those are other areas that we don't equate wealth to. But like, boy, if you had an abundance, you have equity in those relationships, right? Where you've been helping, not because you expected to get back, but now they're receptive because they know who you are and they're maybe willing to help or chip in, or it's all hands on deck. And they're like, hey, you were there for us, we're there for you.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
I'm somewhat of a contrarian, but when Mary and I built our home after we got married, we paid it off in approximately 7 years. Mm-hmm. And the reason that we did that was to get out from underneath that debt, so that as the economy does its thing, we can take advantage of situations because we're not burdened by that expense.
Well, that, I think, for the small business CEOs that are listening to us, I mean, this is something we see all the time. They're looking at their business to fund their lifestyle.
Yeah.
If their lifestyle isn't secure, whether that be their home mortgage,
that's right,
or what they're paying for their cars that are sitting in their driveway,
that's right,
they're now going to be asking questions of their business to fund a lifestyle that wasn't managed properly, instead of, even if the business was.
Yeah, that's right. As fast as I could get there, I wanted my personal lifestyle to be as low as possible so that I could make investments and fund that, whether the company stayed in business or not. Mm-hmm. And most small business owners don't do that. They treat their small business as an ATM.
Right.
And whatever profit the business makes, that's income available to them for their lifestyle.
And as often as not, and we've given this advice 1,000 times, you look at their lifestyle, it's usually built around their last best year.
Yeah, that's right.
They tend to kind of go up in lockstep versus waiting behind their business growth.
That's right.
And then allowing it to creep up in a very safe distance.
Yeah. So an evergreen mindset ignores whether things are booming or they're busting. It ignores that. And it simply says, what are the areas in your life that you need to fortify, that you need to build reserve in, mm-hmm. so that you're as healthy as you can be, your relationships are as healthy as they can be, your money and your debt position are as healthy and as they could be. Everything is such that when the storm hits, right, mm-hmm. when things shift, that you're not in a panic mode personally, right? Now, by the way, same with business, and that is manage your debt situation, manage your expenses, make sure that you run that business as responsibly as possible, so that when a shift happens, you're not looking up going, oh my gosh,
we're overextended, we're Yes, all those things. You made me think of, I never get his name right, the founder of Patagonia. I listened to an interview of him a few years ago. Right. And when they were in one of their growth stages, they were pushing hard on their retail. And they got way overextended in the market shift. And they were literally in a moment in time where they could have gone out of business.
And it happens. It happens to good people too, smart people.
But like to play on the evergreen attitude, what he said is they made a decision at that point that they would never make decisions that were on less than the 500-year horizon. And that sounds like hyperbole, like who in the hell thinks about 500 years? Yeah. But he's trying to say, look, it's got to be market independent. What is the long view that we should always be adhering to? Because we can get out of the ups and downs of this quarter or that quarter, but we're playing to win over the long haul.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So then you have the other mindset, which is you and I would call that either the immediate mindset or situational mindset.
Right.
So number one, you show up to tough times with an evergreen mindset, which means that you personally, your business are both in the best place that they could be in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So you're in the best position possible to weather something. That's right. The whole reason why you evergreen. Right?
You got it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that immediate and situational mindset. And in my mind, there are fundamentally 6 things that I think about.
Okay, let's unpack that. Where do we start?
Yeah, number one, be positive. And I know that sounds trite, but in a recession, don't have a recession mindset.
Like risk everywhere. There's no reward for me. It can go really negative really fast.
That's right. A recession mindset's when you only see risk, you don't see reward. So number one, be positive / see possibility, because it's always there. It's always there, right? So this essentially have the mindset that you're going to make the recession work for you.
Well, I love the see possibilities angle on that. It leads us where we're going to, because if I'm looking for, well, what are the possibilities of this environment? Mm-hmm. That's innately a positive way of framing what you're looking at, because you're looking for the opportunity in maybe a bad time, not focused on just the bad time themselves.
Yeah, so that leads you to number 2,
right?
Which is continually play offense. Okay. And this isn't a sports metaphor.
Right. Where defense wins championships. This is play offense, right? We got to put score on the board.
That's right. That's exactly right. You got to score. That's right. So understand that your mindset is not Pollyanna positive, but what you understand is that people survive shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Some don't. A lot don't, but a lot do. And you have a mindset that says, I'm positive we're going to survive and we're going to set ourselves up in this situation to thrive. I see the possibilities. I know they're out there. Number 2, absolutely play offense.
So is another way of saying that just be like you're being proactive? I mean, like you see the possibilities. So you have this positive mindset. The offense, like it doesn't like. You're just looking for the angle of, are you trying to grow?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it is offense, not just being proactive.
Yeah. Another way to say that would be growth mindset.
Okay.
Yeah. So when and I believe you always play offense, but what happens in a recession is people immediately think defensively.
Right.
Right.
I'm going to hunker down. Expense management. They start cutting everything.
But that's all in order to be able to play better offense.
Right.
It's not to hunker down. I don't throw these things out. I don't cut these things off. I'm just to hunker down. I'm making all those decisions so then I can then find my possibility and go play offense.
Yeah, we discovered that in the last recession, that the people who found their margin, right, they got their expenses in line with the new economy fast. They had the ability to play offense while other people were still trying to assimilate how they could weather it.
Well, you won't be able to thrive coming out of a recession if you play defense during it.
Right. There is no growth in expense management that way, right?
No, there's not.
You can manage your profit that way, but that's not how you manage growth.
Right. And I've been through enough recessions to have seen this play out over and over again. And what surprises me is how few people actually go on offense.
All right.
They truly just go into defense mode, Jay. And I don't get it. I don't know. I'd like to know what book they went and bought off the shelf that say, when tough times hit, play defense.
Well, I think it's because they failed at the number one, to be positive.
Okay.
And I think in this environment where everyone and everything you read, everything you hear on the news is negative, if you go negative, now your emotions are beating your logic.
Yeah.
Your logic says, here's the possibilities, I should play offense, but your emotions, which is what a lot of people act on. That's why I love your number one.
Yeah.
If we are relentlessly showing up, maybe we need a coach to help us. I've got to be positive right now so I can see the possibilities and play offense.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story on myself. When I was in my early 20s and I was in sales management, and we had hit a tough time. Mm-hmm. And I had this gentleman, and he was tall. He was a former airline pilot, very tall, great guy, nice guy. And he came in my office and shut the door, Jay. And he says, I think you're being way too optimistic.
Okay. And I'm imagining you say tall because you're sitting down and you're looking up and this guy's looking down on you.
Yeah.
Like I'm just seeing that hulking figure saying you're being
that's
way too optimistic.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it. He was an imposing figure. And he goes, I think you're being way too optimistic. You're being way too positive. Things are a lot worse, Gary, than you think.
What was your response?
I fired him. Now, again, I'm in my 20s. This guy is in his late 40s, and it's like firing my father, right? I mean, from an age standpoint, I said, here's what I said. I said, you could be right, but the one thing I don't have to do is listen to you. And I fired him.
Okay.
I walked him out.
Well, is that a lesson then in, you're telling it on yourself, but like in terms of the culture of your people, like we can't allow people that are trying to take everybody down to stick around.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to build that, not just into yourself. You've got to lead the way and get everybody seeing the possibilities.
Yeah, don't go to the bar or the restaurant or wherever, the swimming pool or whatever, and sit around and talk about how hard things are. Go find the group that are all talking about the possibilities, the offensive things they can go do to go grab market share or set them up to be the recipient of additional business when the market starts to turn. Go hang out with that group. You do not want to surround yourself with people that we're talking like that.
Well, as leaders, we can manage to that too. And we'll talk about, we'll have a whole section dedicated to leverage in people. But one of the first things one of my teams asked, like, you've been through a recession, what do we need to know about it? And I just said, there's career opportunities here. There's never a better opportunity to differentiate yourself as an employee from the pack than being the person, I'll use this language, that sees possibilities and takes action.
Yeah, that's right. I think that when you play offense, the number one thing that you have to do is go research and see who's doing something unique that no one else fully appreciates. Because the solution to what you need to do is already there. So this idea of go develop yourself, work on yourself during tough time, you and I subscribe to the evergreen mindset. You should always work on yourself.
Yes.
But in a recession, the first thing you ask is, what do I not know that I need to go find out?
Yes.
And it's a really, 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 really big deal.
Versus the security, right? That ego serving, I know it all already, doesn't actually serve you right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So we've got be positive, see possibilities.
Yeah, so number 3 is listen more than ever.
Listen more than ever.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point, right? We were leading into it in our last statement, and that is when you make a decision to go on offense, most likely the solution isn't one that you're going to automatically invent. It's going to be one that you discover. So the question is, how are you going to discover it?
You got to use your ears and your eyes. You got to be open to what's out there, open to the new possibilities.
That's it. That's 100% it. So number 3 is go listen. And I literally go ask questions. What are you doing? And I mean, if your competitors will tell you, ask them. If they won't, go talk to their people and ask them.
Well, it's funny, during, we had a whole season on pivot, but during the pandemic, one of the first things we did in one of our jointly owned training companies, Productive, is we started masterminding with other training companies.
Yeah.
So it's funny, the head guy who ran all of education for Franklin Covey agreed to. We had the people who did Fierce Conversations. We had like 5 of them over 3 months. And we all just said, hey, our world has changed. Let's share information. It was amazing how many people were willing to sit down at the table with a competitor and look for solutions. And frankly, none of it hurt any of us to share the best information, but we all came out of it stronger because of it.
Yeah, I love that.
What do we not know that we need to know?
Yeah.
Big question.
Yeah. And your solution already exists in some form. It's either being done by someone in another industry, and that solution would apply to you, or it's being done in your industry in a way yet that hasn't been recognized. Someone's doing it, but in having success, and it's the solution to your challenge of how am I going to go on the offense in a tough time, but you just didn't know it.
That's right.
In the industry, no one's talking about it because they haven't gotten big yet. They've just came up with it, or they've been working on it the last year or two, and there it is.
Well, or in the last environment, whatever they were doing didn't look like it could scale or was practical at all. But suddenly in this new environment, it makes all the sense in the world.
Well, when things are going great, you're not necessarily thinking about copying someone else. So you're...
Yeah.
Seriously, which is why you don't give them their due. But in a tough time, when things shift, look around. The answer, I promise you, is either sitting in a book. When things got really tough for KW the first time, our real estate business, I went to the bookstore. And I remember the night Mary and I went. And we were there an hour or so. And I'm just buying books. And the one that changed my life was Behind the Golden Arches. Because buried in those golden nuggets,
Yes,
were ideas that I'd never thought about. And there were a handful of ideas that I still repeat to this day that were transformative for me. And had I not sought to listen, had I not thought, okay, people who live before me, people are doing things, who's doing something right that would be a solution for this right here, I wouldn't have done that, Jay.
I love that. And I think we told that story in season 1 and maybe again in season 3, the story of the French fries.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's not the only one, but that's a good one. So listen, number 4 is live outside your comfort zone.
Well, I mean, I'm already uncomfortable. We're in the middle of a recession.
Yeah, you need to see change as a strategy, not a threat.
Okay.
And most people, when shift happens, right? When all this happens to you, your knee-jerk reaction is, I don't want to change.
Yeah.
Right?
Change feels hard.
For most people, change is a threat, not an opportunity. But I'm telling you, change is an opportunity. Because change is inevitable, right? Participation is optional. So life is changing. Everything's going to change. Businesses, there's no way, history proves this, there's no way that your business model that you establish for your business is going to last 50 years.
No, it's going to have to evolve. It's going to have to evolve with you, your people, and the markets, or it won't survive.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I'll tell you a good example in the personal world was Jack LaLanne. You know, Jack LaLanne, the father of the first franchised workout center, right? Yeah. He was the guy that brought the Jumpin' Jack from France to America. He was the first fitness guru on TV, blah, 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 blah. But by the way, he was a meat eater.
Yeah.
He was a meat eater, right? Until he discovered that really wasn't the best way to live. And his goal was to live to 100. And so what did he do?
Changed his diet.
Then he became almost a vegetarian. He became the juicer, right? The Jack LaLanne juicer, you can still buy it. He changed. Think of it this way. He lived based on the best science of the moment.
Right.
And when that science all of a sudden said, what you were doing isn't right, we now believe this is right, here we go.
He didn't fight it. He just did what he needed to do to hit the goals that he had already set for himself.
Yeah, lived well into his 90s and died almost, if I'm not mistaken, died of natural causes.
Well, one of the mantras that you've thrown at me, right, when I'm in probably needing a coaching is get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
As just an attitude. that business and growth and extraordinary results, you have to live in that place outside of your comfort zone. So just go ahead and get used to it.
Yes. And embrace change as an opportunity, because most people won't.
That's right.
Most people are running a lifestyle business, okay? Meaning that they manage the business to the income that they wanted in order to finance their personal life. So they usually, right? So, and if they get there, they're usually going to fight to defend that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of recognize that change is coming anyway, and you can either be on the forefront and lead it, or you can be forced to do it on the back end to try to survive, which is usually too late.
Right. Much better to be on the front end of that. So we've got, I'm just going to recap for people to keep track. We've got be positive or see possibilities, play offense all the time, listen more than ever, live outside your comfort zone. What's number 5?
Yeah, focus on what you can control.
Okay, we've heard that before, but man, why can't we hear it and actually live it?
Yeah, so it's a. We don't have to discuss this very much, because it's just that, and that is when you're going through this whole list and you've come up with your ideas, and you're saying, okay, I'll embrace change. What do I do? And you go out and start listening to people and coming up with ideas. Just remember, don't fight what you can't control.
Yeah. One of the ways that I've seen that manifest, this is my association, people will come in and say, Gary, man, the market's dropped by 30%. And the implication is that they're not going to do well. And the question you've asked them is, well, are there still enough transactions happening in the market for you to hit your goals?
Yeah, the answer is always yes.
And the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
That's something you can control. Can't control that the market's down 30%, but I don't need 100% of the market to hit my goals.
Yeah, I would say that most of my humbling business experiences, Jay, has been when I tried to do things and I couldn't control, right? And I believe that understanding what you can control becomes the foundation of positive action. I can't do that. I can't control that, right? But I can control this. I can right? And I can start my fire with what I can control.
So we can just start our day with a serenity prayer, right? For wisdom, to make sure that we're recognizing what we can and can't control.
Amen. And the last one is learn to live with certainty in uncertain times.
Okay, unpack that one for me.
Sure.
How do we find our certainty when everything feels like it's moving on us?
Well, understand that we live in 3 time zones: the past, present, and the future.
Got it.
Well, the past is certain.
Mm-hmm. It's already happened.
Mm-hmm. The immediate is certain. The situation you're in is certain. Okay. The only thing that is ever uncertain is actually the future. Okay. So then we ask that question: how do we live with certainty? And basically, how do we live with calmness in the face of constantly changing future?
Right.
Okay. And I believe there's 3 things. I think there are 3 things that you can be certain about, no matter whether times are uncertain.
Okay.
Okay. And I think number 1 is who you are. I think you can be very certain about who you are. When you know what you stand for and what you don't stand for, it becomes an attractor to other people.
Well, to be honest, this is something that I waited until my 40s to really work out, Gary. I think I knew it, but I didn't define it and put it on paper until later. So there's probably an opportunity for the CEOs listening to this that they have an idea of who they are, but they could probably put a little thought into it and really get clarity about who they are, so that they could actually express it and know when they're living it.
Yeah. I would say that most people subconsciously know who they are.
Yes.
They have.
Well, our past will show us who we are.
Yeah.
The choices we've made that we've loved and those that we've regretted, right?
Yeah. But you bring up a great point. Being able to articulate who you are, knowing what you stand for.
Yes.
Just write it down. I stand for this. I don't stand for that. I'm this. I'm not that. Brings a lot of clarity. But again, it sets the stage. I believe it sets the stage for number 2.
Okay.
When you know who you are, it's easier to know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it starts with who are you? And then number 2, and you can be certain about who you are. But number two, you can always be certain about what it is you want. And by the way, when you know what you want, it brings purpose to your life. It brings power to your life. You know who you are and you know what you want. And if you think again, no one succeeds alone, no one fails alone. So when you think about, I'm going to try to live my best life in an uncertain time, right? How are you going to do that? You won't do it alone.
Right.
So knowing who you are and knowing what you want becomes the foundation for attracting like-minded people that want to associate with you and live their best life in an uncertain time.
What they're saying is, I recognize who you are because that's a lot like me, and I recognize what you want because that's where I want to go to. So let's do it together.
Yeah. Remember, the moment that you're in is always certain. What's uncertain is about what's going to happen next.
Well, what's going to happen next is often based on what you do in that moment.
Well, it's yes, and the action, that's right. And the actions you take are based on probability, meaning that you study actions and you run outcome scenarios, and then you say, I'm going to choose that one because it gives me the best probability. I'll go back to Jack LaLanne. He quit eating one way and ate another way for the rest of his life because the research said he had a better probability
of living to 100, which was his goal.
That's right. Of living longer and living healthy up until the end if he did that. So the future is always based on you betting on probabilities, by the way, because everything is uncertain. The future is uncertain. You think there's a sure bet in the future? No, there's not.
No,
that's exactly right. Yeah. So the last thing you can be certain about, right? Who are you? What do you want? What are you willing to do?
Okay.
So you can wake up every day of your life as an individual, as a business owner, and you can be certain about who you are. You can be certain about who your company is. You can be certain about what you want. And you can be certain about what the company wants. And by the way, you can be certain about what you're willing to do. And you can be certain about what the company is willing to do.
One of the things that you've impressed me with when you talk about what you're willing to do is you have to always factor in the people who are with you and the people who depend on you as a business owner. When you factor what you're willing to do, it's not just always personal when you're the CEO, is it?
No.
No.
So, great. Well, let's end this one on a great analogy, right? We're charging the storm.
Got it.
Yeah. So the movie Forrest Gump.
Oh, yeah.
So Forrest Gump, there's a scene in Forrest Gump, and Forrest and Bubba are out in their boat and a storm hits.
Their shrimping boat.
And it just, they barely survive, and it really thrashes the boat horribly, right?
Yes.
And when all of a sudden they wake up after the storm and they're going, oh my gosh, our boat is really messed up. But we're alive and the boat's still here.
Right.
They go back to the harbor. What do they discover?
All the other boats have been wrecked by the storm because they were tied up to the docks.
Yes. Their opportunity was because they were out in the storm. It created the opportunity for the success that they later had.
Which brings us back to the buffalo, right? We're not going to go into hibernation here, folks. We're going to lean into the storm. We'll get through it faster, and that's actually where all the opportunity is too.
That's right. Charge the storm.
Hey, did you enjoy that content? You should really check out some of this other stuff that we have to share. And if you like all of this, make sure that you click our subscribe and follow our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single thing.